morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day it is that you are listening, folks. Thank you very, very much for listening. Date today is the 17th of May, year of our Lord 2024. Welcome to yet another edition of The Coping Hour, hosted by Nicholas Hinkle, a.k.a. Motown Noah. A lot of things to cover up top here. One, this is actually me in the flesh in real time. We are back from paternity leave. Hopefully really getting back into the swing of things, uploading on a Friday so that hopefully by the time Monday rolls around, we'll have an episode out. Probably worth noting that I can already tell the first few episodes while we started to get back into the swing of things here are maybe going to be a little bit on the shorter side just because I've tried to do like a test run of this, like, kind of getting back into the swing of things. Apparently I forgot how to do it. And yesterday I got like 30 minutes into a take and I like freaked out and I just stopped the recording because I was so upset over how it was going. And I had this moment, it felt like I like went to an open mic and had some new material and I bombed. And I was mortified that all these people in the room, like they witnessed that moment. But then I was lucky. I was like, wait a minute, I don't have to upload this. I was like, no one ever has to see this. All right, cool. So I'm a little rusty. I can tell, and it's pissing me off. So this one might get weird. I don't know. Maybe I'll bleep a bunch of stuff. Maybe there'll be jump cuts all over the place because I just keep kind of tripping over myself. I don't know how this one's going to go. But I am back from paternity leave, ladies and gentlemen, and this is the 50th episode of The Coping Hour, which is not nothing. As they say in the industry, it is not nothing. I love to celebrate milestones. These numbers are really important to me. You know, if there's anything I could say in a moment like this, it would be fucking awesome job, Nick. Like, really, really good job, dude. Like, I know for the most part, you get hyper fixated on a very specific idea for like 2 weeks, or maybe it's like a hobby or something for like 2 weeks. You learn everything about it. You obsess over it. You convince yourself it's going to be your life. And then the second that 2 weeks passes, it holds literally zero place in your mind at all. And you move on to the next thing. That's how I operate, right? So to do 50 episodes of anything is already great in and of itself. But for me to do it for myself, I'm proud of myself. So 50 episodes. I asked you guys, you know, we had the Coping Hour call to action episode, which was like a sort of in-between chapter. Didn't count against the tally. Technically, that was the 50th episode, but for all intents and purposes, right? I also threw up a community post on YouTube asking you guys if we were to do a best of episode, you know, what would you guys like to see in it? Because ultimately, I couldn't think of anything that was actually all that funny. And if I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. I don't know what you guys think is funny about this show. And you guys did give some really good suggestions, actually. Some that I was a little bit surprised about. Namely, I guess you guys actually thought the cross-country skiing email guy was awesome. You guys thought that was funny? I fucking hate that guy. Honestly. I think that guy's the worst. I think that guy sucks. But you guys really liked it. And you guys thought it was really funny. So when we do a best of episode, I will be sure to include that. Of course, the grizzly bear versus gorilla thing. One that you guys pointed out that I thought was maybe one to put a pin in was all the times I've mentioned the fact that Tony Romo fucked up Jim Nance's Super Bowl call just a couple months ago, the Chiefs beating the 49ers, which, by the way, I don't know if it needs to be said. That did happen. That is a real thing that happened. And if you go back and I shudder thinking about that call because in recent weeks even, I watched it in the hospital after our son was born. I was like, I need to listen to I'm being so fucking serious. I listened to that shit in the hospital because I needed to know what not to do if by the grace of God, I am ever in the booth calling a motherfucking Super Bowl in overtime with the Super Bowl, the season on the line, back-to-back champs on the line, a dynasty on the line. Remind myself never to fall into the mechanics of the job the way that motherfucker Tony Romo did that day. Jim Nance, if I could get him in a skiff, if I could ask him anything, and I give him the truth serum, I get anything I want. How fucking mad were you? Because it was at least a little bit. Because it was at least a little bit if you're Jim Nance that you fucking crush it. And then it was because Tony is conscious of the moment. We've seen it in the past. Was it who's the Cowboys defensive back? Is it Deron Bland? Bland, 26. That guy sets the NFL record for most pick sixes in a season earlier this year, or technically last year, right? Nance and Romo are on the call when he set the record. Nance fucking, because he's a Hall of Famer, first ballot professional at what he does, capital P. Jim Nance calls it into the history books, whatever he says, and Romo doesn't even fucking talk about what happened in the play. He just goes, and that was a great call by you, Jim. He recognizes the moment. Okay? I'm staying on this a little bit longer than I need to, but it bothers me. It bothers me a lot. One thing I was considering when I came back was, I was like, do I do a segment called Things That I Heard About But Didn't See while I was on paternity leave? If you're new to the show, one of the questions that we love to ask on this program is, have you seen this and have you heard about this? Now, usually I am genuinely asking that because I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. However, there were a lot of things on paternity leave that happened that I heard about, but I never actually saw because I wasn't able to be as plugged in as I normally would be for obvious reasons. So what are some things that I heard about, but I didn't see? You know what I heard about? I heard that something happened in the Knicks-Pacers series in like game 2 maybe that had people of like significant note, we'll say, questioning the legitimacy of the officiating. I guess something happened. I still fucking have no idea. You know what else I heard about but I didn't see? Well, I guess this doesn't technically count. You know what I thought was funny? I got to witness, without being able to watch the first part of a lot of the early games of the Minnesota-Denver series, right? I got to see motherfuckers lie in real time. I got to see it with my own 2 eyes. I got to see the people who pull levers change the narrative and watch people fall prisoner to the moment. Prisoner to the moment. Motherfuckers were really talking about Anthony Edwards is the best player in the world after those 2 games. People were really doing it. Wow, I watched you guys do the Michael Jordan thing. Okay? I watched it happen with my own 2 eyes. I'm still watching it happen, if we're being honest. I'm not saying this because now Minnesota looks like they're shitting the bed a little. I'm not saying it is like some revisionist thing. I'm bummed about it, to be honest. I'm in Minnesota's. I want them to win. I've always thought the Michael Jordan shit was fucking crazy. I've always thought it was insane. I think it's funny when people do like the split face shit with them because in some way you're like, wow, I guess they do kind of look alike a little bit. It's funny. I saw somebody do an edit. I saw one that was weird. It was like if you could still wear chains in the NBA and they like put what Ant would look like next to Michael, and I was like, okay, that is kind of weird. But motherfuckers who like compare them, I don't. It's weird. It's always been wild to me, and I'm so glad that people were kind of brought down to earth a little bit. My favorite, oh my god, hands down, the funniest narrative that I saw after those first 2 games. That people, what happened to this? Why don't people want to say this anymore? Nuggets have never beaten a 50-win team. Motherfuckers were saying that. They were saying it that was it. Like, what were you supposed to say to that, right? It's like, oh, the Warriors blew a 3-1 lead. Well, what do you want to say to that? Like, you have nothing. You got nothing. And now it's like, everyone's just like, oh, yeah, it's Jokic. Motherfuckers were saying that Jokic is like the worst and most undeserving 3-time MVP across the 4 major sports in North American history. You were like, what? You were like, huh? That was fun. That was really fun. Things I heard about, but I didn't see. Well, you know what? I guess that segment's over because I very much saw this. I have been very present in this. Here on this show, I know that we like to focus on more narrative stuff than anything. Like that's just the bread and butter of the show. We seldom talk about things that happen on the court. But let's talk about something that transcends both of those things, but still pertains to basketball as a whole. Really, the story here is the NBA's new TV deal. And this is where I might start to go off the rails a little bit. So please stay with me if I do. Give me a second. I will get us back onto the road. I promise. But put your seatbelts on. We're about to do some off-road podcasting. So, okay. NBA's TV deal expiring after the 24-25 season. ABC still got their hand in the cookie jar. Still getting a slice of the pie, but whoa, new kid on the block, Amazon Prime, big tech giant joining the fight, adding more live sports to their already existing catalog. And then there's this final spot on the roster. And it's either going to go to NBC or it's going to go to TNT. Now, as of this recording, there is a rumor out there that it's already NBC, and it's just about crossing some T's and dotting some I's. But it sounds like TNT lost. What's important here is, well, that means no more NBA on TNT. You lose Shaq, you lose Kenny, you lose Chuck, you lose Ernie. Ernie is going to stay at Turner Sports even if they don't have basketball. Basketball hasn't even been always been his whole deal anyways. He's also just loyal. It's just who he is as a dude, right? It makes sense. And the latter three, it's like they're going to get paid a shit ton of money to just go somewhere else, and it's just going to be the same show. It won't be the same show without Ernie. But as long as you're able to keep those three dudes together, we're not going to really have a conversation about it. And that's honestly not even really what I want to talk about here is the whole NBA on TNT thing. But it does suck that it sounds like RIP, and that's going to suck a lot. But that's not what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is kind of what's scaring me a little bit. I think it's weird that all of these... we talk about Amazon being a tech giant. All these tech giants and these streaming services are getting into live events and sports broadcasts. That's like where they're pivoting to, like, this is where we want all of our revenue to come from. Even Netflix, you think about the roast of Tom Brady being a live event. You think about the John Mulaney show. Well, that I guess hasn't technically been live. Well, has it been? I don't know but the roast of Tom Brady, right? Like that was live. And my girlfriend and I were talking about it. We're like, we wonder why now Netflix decided that this is when more people are watching something at the same time than ever. Like, how much does Twitch play into that? That they know that these younger core audience groups are like, hey, man, we love watching streamers on Twitch and TikTok and IG Live and YouTube. And so, I guess this sounds dumb as fuck because it's like, no, it's just like TV. It's just Netflix is all that it is. Well, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here, and this is what I was talking about. So, Nick, let's steer this thing back onto the road. My concern becomes this. If 10 years from now, you think about a sports broadcast and what that looks like, pick a sport. Let's talk about basketball, right? What does the conventional broadcast look like in 2024? When are the commercials? When are they doing ad reads? What is the formula of how it works? I wonder how different that's going to look in 10 years, first of all. And then what comes with that is, where are we going to be consuming them, or how are we going to be consuming them in 10 years? Now, there's a conversation to be had about how viable streaming even is as a service and as an idea. And you wonder by the end of the decade what's going to happen. But again, I'm getting ahead of myself, and we'll get there in a second. So in the short term, if you see these streaming giants keep getting their hands on all of these like live sports, at a certain point, are you not thinking to yourself, okay, well, I want to watch my hockey team, so I got to get Peacock, and I'm going to be using arbitrary services, and I got to get Peacock, and then, but I also want to watch my basketball team, so now I have to get HBO. And so now these leagues, it's a different fight. You're competing in subscribers. It becomes a different. So then you're like, do these lizards in Silicon Valley all get into a room and they realize the implications of what they're doing here? And hey, motherfuckers have cut the cord with cable in the past. Who's to say they won't do it again with us? And so that's when they decide, so we just merge into each other and we just recreate cable. And you're like, Nick, well, I don't know about that. The motherfuckers are already doing it. They're already doing it. As of like 2 days ago, Netflix, Apple TV, and Peacock are merging for a unique and exclusive bundle under whose umbrella? Motherfucking Comcast. It's happening in real time. We're seeing it happen. We're seeing cable being recreated. And it sucks, man. And when you talk about what the broadcast is going to look like in 10 years, commercial integration isn't really what we do on this show. So, I don't really know. What is interesting, we talked last week, or a couple of days, however long ago it was, the last episode in the call to action, we talked about, if Taco Bell sold the rights and like packaging and merchandising and distribution rights to Baja Blast. What is that deal worth? Is that $500 million? Like, we didn't know how to quantify that, but we know a little bit about advertisement and how that shit works because a lot of that's public, right? So the NBA being like, okay, networks, it's $2.5 billion a season if you want to carry our games. $2.5 billion a season. And are you not left to kind of be like, listen, I'm not a numbers cruncher over here, but is that not kind of a good deal? It's an incomprehensible amount of money, but is that not kind of a good deal? Because when you think about how many commercials there are, and you think about that's 82 nights a year for 30 different teams, you think about the play-in, you think about All-Star Weekend, you think about how long the playoffs are, and you think about the finals, and all those eyes in totality, how many games that is, how many minutes there are of commercials, of ads, like how many, in 10 years, how many different overlays there are going to be on the screen, how different the jerseys are going to look, how interactive the interface actually is. You know, at some point with these streaming services, they're going to add like party chat features, like they just are. That's where this is going. So it's a weird time to be watching sports and consuming things the way that we do, because everything that I'm mentioning here, it doesn't feel particularly consumer friendly. And I guess I'm just worried about it. And I think at some point, you know, you talk about how viable is streaming, you know, in 10 years, how many of them are still going to exist? I don't know. Because you think about Netflix. Think about Netflix. If you're my age, when we were growing up, or older, obviously, but my age, my introduction to Netflix was those motherfuckers mailing you DVDs. And every DVD we got, we would burn it. Like, now we have that movie, right? Thanks, Netflix. And then one day Netflix was like, hey, we're launching a website. And you'll be able to like watch movies on there and like some TV shows on there. We're like, that's cool. That's cool. But I'm just like resetting my queue and like moving shit around. Like, that's cool. Have fun with the website. And you're like, oh, they have The Office? Like, that's cool. And then it was at the same time, you know, we're thinking to ourselves, okay, so it's basically Netflix and Blockbuster are like the two last bastions of like, you know, like movie stores. And then Netflix takes the crown. Blockbuster is lying in the fucking dirt, spitting up blood. And Netflix is like, actually, we don't even want to do this. We're going to just go do something else. And then they just completely pivot and they focus all of their resources on streaming. And they're like, no, this is all we do now. And then they've changed on a fundamental level the way that we consume media in like 6 years. What? And so who's to say? Who's to say how many of these guys are going to be around and how many of them won't? Who's to say, I mean, how many more are going to emerge and how many of them are going to fold into one another? It's fascinating. But it's also scary. And folks, let's focus on something a little more lighthearted. What do you say? We got an email the other day that I thought was very funny. Oh, while I'm pulling this up, actually, I gotta tell you guys something. One of you fuckers was a little too sassy. It's actually a couple of you, but one of you guys was a little too sassy sending me an email. Oh, I can't wait to hear what you have to say about you saying that Minnesota was going to get dog walked by Denver. Now they're up 2-0. Like, who's bitch made now? I don't know. Who is bitch made now? I don't know. Email me back. Let me know. We got an email from Wiz. Wiz, welcome to the show. Subject line, we should deregulate sports trades. Wiz, let's read the email. I was chilling on edibles when I got an idea to draw this graph. I will not be attaching the graph to the episode. Sorry. Sports are worse because we limit what teams can trade. You can only trade your draft picks for the next few years or players. In this limited system, talented players are effectively impossible to trade for. We should allow teams to trade for whatever they want. Imagine how funny it would be if we let the Nets trade their next 16 firsts and a revenue split from their arena for Victor Wembanyama. What would it take to trade for an absolutely untouchable athlete in sports? For example, would the Chiefs trade Patrick Mahomes for Joe Burrow and the rest of the first team all-pro offense? Would they have to do some off-the-field deals too, like giving the Chiefs ownership direct power over the state government? What kind of shenanigans and capital would have to be offered to get them to trade Mahomes? Man, this is such a good question. because I think it just captures what we're trying to do here so perfectly. I thank you for emailing me this, because I've just been chewing on it, man. And what I've settled on is like, let's pretend, how do I want to make this fucking joke? I've been thinking about this in my head, and I just haven't been able to actually say it out loud, so here it goes nothing. If I'm Baltimore, and we're looking at shopping Lamar Jackson for whatever reason, and this bridge thing happens, and the federal government doesn't say, hey, we're going to do this for you. If the Bears, before Caleb Williams, they still had Justin Fields, if the Bears were like, hey, we'll pay for it, and we'll do whatever relief packages you guys need. We'll cover some 401ks, some funeral costs, like whatever you need. But we need Lamar. Does that do it? You know what I mean? Is that enough? If it's 2001, and stay with me, and hold on. If it's 2001, and there's I was going to say Chad Pennington. He wasn't the fucking Jets quarterback in 2001. If a team was like, I'm trying to think of A-Rod. No, he wasn't even there yet. Jeter. We're going to say fucking Jeter. If a team was like, a city was like, we'll fund the cleanup. We'll do relief packages, cover some 401ks, funeral costs, whatever we have to do. But we need Derek Jeter. Would that have been enough for it? If it was 2014, and hold on, and stay with me, or was it 13? And I'm in Boston. I could just do this all day. If it was 1999 and you were in Colorado, where was Columbine? Where was it? Shit, it wasn't Columbine, Colorado. That was just the name of the high school, right? I could do this all day. It's an awesome question. What would it take to trade for Mahomes? I don't know. Would you have to do... Oh, there's a joke in here somewhere. Hold on. Let's talk it out and let's see if we can get somewhere with it. Recently, Travis Kelce was like, had a charity auction, and Taylor was like, oh, you're doing a charity auction? Like, here's 2 tickets to my upcoming second leg, North American leg of the Eras Tour this summer. Here's 2 tickets to that for your charity thing. Could Taylor Swift facilitate a trade for... Fuck, this is dumb. This isn't going anywhere. This isn't funny. Such a good question. And it's a damn shame that I'm blowing it in this episode when the gears just aren't spinning. Literally at all. Let's focus on something more negative. Let's get back to being a little bit more negative. Yeah, this NBA lottery thing is still pissing me off a lot. I'm still so mad. Because I wasn't even thinking about it in terms of like, oh, it happened again. I wasn't thinking about it in terms of like, oh, we just fell to 5th for the 3rd time in a row. For the 3rd year in a row. 2 years ago, it was Jaden Ivey. And where are we with him? I don't think he's going to be on the team next year. I'm just not convinced at all that he is. And then last year was Asar. Not too many notes. You could do the shooting thing. Like, hey, can you figure that out? I was, I guess, just excited to see him at the lottery. I was like, so the blood clots are good. You're good then? Are you good? You look good. You look healthy. You look healthy. I mean, you look basically the same as before. So I don't know what that, even if he still had blood clots and like he couldn't go to the lottery, but he couldn't go on a plane, right? You can't go on a plane. Yeah, you can't go on a plane if you got blood clots. The fuck, come on. That's like common doctor knowledge. You go to doctor school and the first thing they say, you walk in and before you even write your name on the paper, they're like, can a person with blood clots fly on a plane? Hell no. Absolutely not. And if you say yes, you're kicked out of doctor school. So we're picking 5th again. So is that Buzelis' music? Is Buzelis the only guy seemingly in this draft class that I will talk about, that I've heard whispers about? This Buzelis character? Yeah, that'd be pretty funny. Be pretty funny because of how badly I don't want that motherfucker literally at all. And if you're Detroit and I was listening to what show was it that I was listening to, and they were texting a GM and they were like, dudes, like executives around the league are talking about this class as like having the first pick is like starting at like 8 in any other year. And you're like, huh? Like, what the fuck? Another executive said it was like 10th. You're like, Jesus. So here's the thing about this draft class is when it's talked about the way that it is, and as negatively specifically as it is, like really try to think the last time you heard somebody say like, oh, there's a guy in this class that I'm really excited about. Like maybe there's like one or two guys, but you know what I mean? All we're doing is setting ourselves, because our expectations are below zero, right? We're expecting all of these guys to, like, if one of them makes a third team all NBA in their career, like this will have been a successful class. Like that's how it's being talked about. Like these motherfuckers are, some of them are coming from like actual programs and like actual overseas. Motherfuckers are talking about them like they're coming up from like the Washington Generals, and you're like, you're like, huh? You're like, what the fuck? All we're doing is setting ourselves up to be like, wow, see, this is just why you can never trust the draft experts. Like, oh, people told me this draft sucked. It's like, it's because it does. I think it's just because it does. But yeah, like there are going to be some guys, and most of them are probably going to be somewhere between like 16 and like 33. You know what I mean? I feel like that's what you kind of get out of drafts like this is, you know, it's one thing to be top heavy and you know that like the 1 through 7, that's a solid NBA player, right? Usually one of those guys doesn't turn out, but you know what I mean? And one of these is just kind of like, this is where, as you know, this is where your scouting department really gets to shine. This is really where they get to flex. You know what I mean? Like if you have an eye for talent, this is the year to find it. Because anybody can find talent when it's the 2018 draft. You know what I mean? When it's I mean, all NBA players flying off the board every third pick. Anybody can figure that out. But when it's a draft that is sort of as universally groaned at as this one seems to be, I'm excited to see who figures it out and who doesn't. And some people may not want to hear this, but if nothing else, Troy has been pretty good at that. And that's just like historically speaking. That's before Detroit. Like that, his good draft track record predates Detroit. So out of all the and people are going to go, oh, what about Killian? Yeah, but also Sadiq, and also Isaiah, and also Jaden Ivey, and also Azar Thompson, and also Jalen Duren, right? So that's not the part that I'm concerned about. The part that I'm concerned about is the fact that the Bucks said no to us talking to John Horst. The fuck? What's your problem? Why? You guys don't even like him. You literally don't even like him. You guys are mean to him all the time. All you guys do is talk about how he doesn't know how to draft. And you guys are still like, no, we want to keep him. Why? Like Giannis, first of all, you don't even listen to him. Like everything that Giannis wants is what, didn't he go over John Horst's head? Horst wanted, he wanted Nick Nurse, right? Horst wanted Nurse, and Giannis was like, fuck that. Like, I want Adrian Griffin. Bucks were like, okay, well, we're doing Adrian Griffin then. How did that go again? Oh, and then Doc Rivers. So you don't even like him. Let him come home. Let him come back to Detroit. They're not going to do it. Luckily, the JJ Redick rumors have, those little flutters have gone away. They've gone down. I'm nervous because I just feel like it's in the air that this summer is when I just kind of decide, I'm like, it's over. I don't want to be a fan anymore. I'm serious. That's how worried I am. Because I don't know what I'm going to do when the Miles Bridges thing happens. We've been telegraphing it on this show for how long now? That's not a thing that, oh my God, can you imagine if this happens? Folks, when this happens, we're not going to do a victory lap on the show. We're just going to be like, what else? This isn't news. Woj's going to tweet it, and it's as if it's breaking news, but we're like, no, we've as written. You know what I mean? I just watched Dune Part 2 finally, as written. Like facts. You know what I mean? Like we been new. So between that and like, what the fuck are these Trae Young rumors? Why am I seeing Bleacher Report come out with like best fit and worst fit for a bunch of different players that could be on the move? And they're like, worst fit for Trae Young, Detroit? I agree with you. My issue isn't with the fact that they said he's a bad fit. My issue is like, the fuck? I had seen the previous rumor about sneaky, watch out for Detroit. I'm hearing motherfuckers talk about Brandon Ingram. And I'm like, whoa. I'm not calling Brandon, whoa. I'm all over that. Because my thing is, I'm so tired of well, what are you going to do with the fifth pick? I'll trade that shit for Brandon Ingram. If it gets me Brandon Ingram, what are we talking about? It was Russillo. That's who was talking. He was texting all these executives. And another thing he said was one of the executives said, the first pick in this draft doesn't get you a guy. It gets you the fourth or fifth starter on a really good NBA team. It doesn't get you Derek White. Like, it gets you Lou Dort. You're like, whoa. Does it get you Brandon Ingram? Ugh. It might. Probably not. It's the fifth pick and stuff. I should have said that at the top. It's like the fifth pick, and then I don't know, who do you want between? Who do you want is not between. Just who do you want? You can have them. The Trey Murphy thing would be nice. Can we somehow swindle him out of there too? Probably not. Probably not. Ooh, trade the fifth pick and get more picks in the future. A GM would have to be on some strong shit to even trade 2 seconds for this fifth overall pick. Hell no. Future picks. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? The same draft class that we're all talking about is like what is this? We don't want any part of this. That's the draft that GMs are going to be desperate to trade up in. We got to get to 5. We got to get our guys at 5. We need Buzelis. You fucking don't. You don't need Buzelis. Huh? Gross. The fuck are you talking about? Pistons Reddit. Juvenile. Fucking talking about Bronny James. Protest the NBA in the NBA lottery. Just draft Bronny James. Say fuck it. And say, we're just going to sit here till LeBron shows up. We're going to draft your son. We're going to hold the league hostage. You're like, what? Shut up. There's nothing funny going on. There's nothing funny going on. Nobody can seem to make this situation funny at all. I can't do it. I can't do it. I haven't been able to laugh about this shit all year. I haven't found a damn thing funny about this season. I haven't made a good joke about this team once. Since October. Since before I even started doing the show. You know what I saw the other day? I'm moving on. I saw something outside and I was, what the hell is that? My girlfriend's like, I don't see it. I go out on the balcony. I look up. I'm like, what the fuck? I go back inside. I'm like, I don't. And I just walk back outside and she's like, what the fuck? I go outside. I'm like, sweetheart, I think these are the Northern Lights. I'm like, I was like, I don't think I'm crazy. These are the Northern Lights. I was like, we're in like a dome right now. Like this is, and then I start thinking to myself, I'm like, is this like fucking Starlink or something? Like, is this like a SpaceX rocket? You know, if you know what that looks like, you know what I'm talking about. You're like, what the fuck is this? But I'm like, no, that wouldn't be around here. And then I'm just like looking, I'm like, that's the motherfucking Northern Lights. So the next morning, we get a bunch of texts from family members from different parts of the country talking about, oh, you guys see the Northern Lights? They're not Southern. You guys see the Northern Lights? We're like, I'm like, oh my God, I wasn't lying. She's like, you weren't crazy. I'm like, I wasn't fucking crazy. That was really the Northern Lights. Yeah, and then we find out about all this solar activity. Shit was like 16 times the diameter of the Earth or something. Didn't compel me that much, unfortunately. But I got to see the Northern Lights, which was insane. By the sounds of it, lots of you guys might have as well. Lots of people, not just around the country, but around the world. I think New Zealand got hit pretty hard. I say that as if it was like a devastating... How's Nicole Kidman? Check in on her. How's she doing? I don't have anywhere else to go with this. Yeah, it was cool. It was awesome. I kind of wish I enjoyed it more. Probably never going to see that shit again, much less in living in the major city. It was a fucking miracle we got to even see it to begin with. But I think having a balcony helped. Being a little bit closer to the lake. I don't know. Maybe that sounds dumb. Makes sense in my head. Okay, folks. That's it. That's paternity leave. I don't. You guys want to hear a little bit about the delivery? I guess I can give you guys some stuff. Or I guess I already did. It's cool. How's being a dad? It's cool. It's awesome. We're really good at it. I was gonna say I'm really good at it. I am really good at being a dad. We're great at being parents, though. He's cool. Like he's a good dude. It's been It's been weird, man, because like you've so much just like your perspective changes in such a way that I went into this knowing like I'm just excited to figure out how I change because I know I will. And I don't know, man, like you just look at people with kids differently. Like, I don't know. There's always been this weird invisible barrier between me and even if it's somebody my age or even younger than me, if they have a kid, you're just like in a different echelon as a person. Because you've devoted your time and your life to this thing that I can't even comprehend. And then it happens to you. Again, I say that as if it's like a bad thing, but then you go through it. And I just like see people so differently now. I'm like, wow, like it's such a humbling experience where she went out the other day. She finally got to like leave the house by herself for the first time since she delivered him. And so it was also my first test to see like if I could handle it and like what I do if he starts to freak out. And so I like put him in a little bouncer. We were watching Cavs Celtics. He was just hanging out. He was just chilling. I got to hang out for like an hour and it was fine. Like it was fine. And there are nights where he doesn't sleep a ton. He had a poop the other day that there was like real G-force on it. It was wild. He's also really dramatic. And I made a joke. I was like, man, he's just like his mom. She was like, shut the fuck up. What are you talking about? She was like, you know what you're doing. I was like, okay, I'm sorry. He does get that after me. It does. It's not, I mean, she's not blameless in it, but it is mostly me. He's actually crying right now. That's actually going to be my cue, ladies and gentlemen. I got to go hop in here. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, whoa, that was a Freudian slip. If you're listening to this on Spotify, be sure to rate 5 stars. If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to leave a like. Nice little comment for the algorithm. Be sure to subscribe. Again, I apologize for the shorter episode, folks, but just show me some grace and we'll sort of get back into the swing of things here. We'll be back on Monday. Coping Hour is officially back. I love you all very much. Happy 50th episode. I'm sure there was a lot of shit that I wanted to say that I just forgot to say, but we'll get to it on Monday. So happy 50 episodes. I love you all very much. I will catch you guys.
Computers now have primary control.
Beautiful.
Primary control.
Beautiful.
Primary control.
Beautiful.
Primary control.
Beautiful.